Hey you guys, welcome or welcome back to Our Awaken. So for today we're going to be talking about emotional unavailability and what that looks like and usually where it stems from and how it can show up just in different ways in your life with yourself and also in your relationships. So just to start, emotional unavailability for me looks like not being like comfortable with your own emotions or not really being in tune with really like just living in your emotions or really experiencing your emotions, acknowledging your emotions even if they may make you feel uncomfortable. Or sometimes it's like even if you do feel a sense of discomfort, you are not allowing yourself the space to really acknowledge it, to say like, hey, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Or if you do feel uncomfortable, then you may resort to doing things that like numb you out versus actually like sitting there and just being grounded within that current state of emotion to really understand why you may be feeling that way, and like giving yourself the space to really like feel it but also work through it. And in a sense, when you're emotionally unavailable with yourself, you tend to not validate your own emotions, which can cause you to be like in this cycle of not really feeling seen and heard by yourself, ultimately because you're not giving yourself the space to really just feel and acknowledge those feelings. And when it comes to like emotional unavailability with people, oftentimes when you're emotionally unavailable with yourself, you tend to also be emotionally unavailable with people. And oftentimes that could look like feeling uncomfortable with holding space for other people's emotions, or feeling like they're too needy because they express their emotions. It's like anything with emotions or feelings just make you feel like this sense of discomfort. And I remember like when I first really started to like understand the whole emotional unavailability thing, especially in relationships, like it can be tough because if you are like trying to connect with a person emotionally, you want them to be emotionally available, right? But if the person is emotionally unavailable, if you don't like work on certain like parts of yourself where you may have felt a sense of neglect or abandonment, and usually like those types of feelings, which comes from usually like growing up, whether you've had a parent that wasn't really like emotionally available with you, or they didn't really like nurture your emotions or really like hold space for you. Because like oftentimes when you're a kid, there are certain parents where it's just like they don't want to hear you cry. And if we're talking about genders too, right? Say for example with little boys, there's always this thing of, oh, you're a boy, you're not supposed to be crying, or you're crying like a little girl. Or there's just like this sense of like they don't hold space for you to be like human for like the gender aspect, right? But then we're just thinking generally, right? Not to like categorized in different genders, but some parents are just not emotionally mature to where if their kid is crying, you may not hold space for them to really cry it out, because like if that's what they're feeling, let them feel that, right? But there's also this sense of like sitting down with the child to really like help them understand their emotions. Why are they feeling what they feel? But also you as the parent, like taking the time out to try to understand your kid, because your kid is emotionally immature, right? They don't know how to handle those big emotions, especially growing up. So if a parent may not be able to hold space for them, whether it's because a kid is feeling emotional about something that doesn't have anything to do with the parent, or if the kid is having like good grades in school and the parent isn't really like treating it as an accomplishment, and they're just like, oh, like, okay, like there are certain things that as children we need to feel like this sense of just like belonging, this feeling of love and care. And when you are raised in certain environments where you're not feeling like that sense of just like appreciation and genuine love and nurturing, because the reality is, even as a kid, and I've learned this from my nephew watching him grow up, like if you were to show him a facial expression of like not being happy about something, he will stand there and stare at you, but like in confusion trying to process your facial expression, and you can tell like he knows something is wrong. Versus if you smile with him, like immediately he's gonna be smiling back. Like kids, even though they haven't been in this world long enough, they are still able to interpret energy and still able to interpret facial expressions and just like how you interact with them. So as a kid, imagine in your most like neediest state of life, right? Because you're just now coming in, you're codependent on your parents or your guardians, the people around you. You can't do anything for yourself. You are looking to the adults around you to care for you, to, be your caregivers. So if you're noticing that, like, let's say if you're crying and your parent may not be like giving you the attention that you want, or let's say you're happy but like you feel a sense of neglect, or your parent isn't really, like showing you that love and really just embracing you in a way where you feel that, connection there, that can cause you to feel like your emotions aren't like, something to be not celebrated. But in a sense, when a kid is feeling that neglect, they will start to feel like there's something wrong with them having emotions because their parent or their guardian isn't embracing them in that way. So it's like you grow up to feel like, okay, let me not be needy, or, oh, if I cry, this is going to be a bad thing because I'm going to get in trouble. Because, some parents will say, oh, if you cry, I'm going to give you something to cry about. Like, it's so many different things where a kid will learn based on your reaction how they will then move in life out of safety and protection, right? Because at the end of the day, like, we all, in a sense, like, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, we make decisions and we do things based off of how our nervous system feels. So if a kid isn't feeling a sense of safety when they are showing emotions, that will cause them to like shut those emotions down, because that will feel safer for them. Like, it will feel like, okay, when I do show emotions, I get like in trouble for it, but when I don't show emotions, it's like I'm being the good kid. Like, that is your way of saying, you know what, let me just sit down and just not really like show up a certain way so that I can avoid this negative reaction from this parent. And the unfortunate reality is a lot of kids have experienced emotionally immature parents in some way. And it's not to say that, oh, if a parent is emotionally immature, then that makes them a bad parent, because a lot of times some people are just doing the best that they can, and some people can only do what they know how to do based off of just like the level of work that they've done on themselves. But the unfortunate thing about that also is when you bring a kid into this world, they are a product of what you currently are, which is why I always say, like, I feel like it's really important to be intentional about bringing children into this world, because I just personally feel like there's a level of work that I want to do on myself to feel confident enough to say, like, I may not be perfect, but when I bring kids into this world, like, I'm going to try to put my best foot forward. And of course, there's a level of pressure that I won't put on myself, but there's also a level of standard that I have for myself, because I will want to give my child or my children the best chance possible at growing up to, like, just have like a healthy foundation, right? But I just feel like when it comes to being emotionally unavailable, when you grow up and you've been like kind of trained in a way to like block out your emotions, or even if it may not come from your parents, right? Which I do feel like it still comes from a level of your foundation growing up, because oftentimes, like, when you, let's say for example, if a person grew up in an emotionally mature household, I feel like you will not be so likely to involve yourself with emotional unavailability, because you will see like, this is different than what I'm used to, and this doesn't feel like, this doesn't feel familiar, so you will know something is wrong. But when you are used to emotional unavailability, you grow up and you tend to, like, people will mirror that back to you in a sense where it's like, this feels familiar, which is why you'll see a lot of people who have dealt with emotional unavailability or even emotional immature, like just people around them, because that felt normal to you growing up. When you grow up, that is what you tend to gravitate towards, because it feels comfortable, it feels familiar, even when it may not be comfortable for you, because something is off about it. There's this surface level of connecting when it's like it doesn't go as deep as you would want it to go because of that emotional unavailability. And I would say, like, personally for me, like, growing up in an African household, I'm not saying like, there's a level of like love that they show you in the sense of, I've taken care of you, I've provided food for you, I've kept a roof over your house, and all these things. They basically made sure you had your basic necessities. But there's a level of, like, let's say emotional connecting that doesn't really go on much. And it's not to say all African households, right? But there's a level of like, your parents can't give you what they haven't got if they haven't recognized that within themselves. So I would say for myself, like, yeah, I felt a sense of love, but I did grow up emotionally unavailable with myself because I wasn't really taught how to like nurture my emotions. And I feel like that's something like they should be teaching in school. Like, these are things, foundational things of life that should be taught, because it's like you need these things to really put in your arsenal to really navigate this world and really show up in the best way, right? And avoid the BS. But I would say the older I got and the more I realized, like, okay, if I connected with this person and it's because, like, you know, after reflecting, like, this is what is familiar to me. So I would say I did grow up emotionally unavailable with myself. And that also shows up in people who are people pleasers, because there's a level of your feelings that you're suppressing in order to uphold and show up for someone else while neglecting yourself. And it's like you're not being emotionally available with yourself, because when you are a people pleaser, oftentimes you are putting yourself on the back burner in order to make other people comfortable. But it's like it shouldn't go that way. You get what I'm saying? Like, you should always have a level of priority with yourself. And it's not to say be selfish, but there's a level of like, I need to make sure I'm good first and foremost. I need to make sure I'm not losing myself. I need to make sure that I'm not compromising myself in a way that is at my detriment in order to benefit someone else. And to be honest, it took for me to have some experiences that I realized, like, this is not fulfilling to me, whether it was in friendships or relationships or even just like dynamics that I had, where I really had to take a step back and analyze just the people in my life, the relationships. And it's just like, wow, like, none of this feels the way that I would want it to feel. And it took for me in 2020 to really start my healing journey. And from that point was when I built my emotional availability with myself, and I learned to really like sit with myself, acknowledge what I was feeling. It's really like exploring myself and my emotions, even when it felt uncomfortable. But it was necessary for me to do that, because it's like, how do you connect with yourself if you don't understand yourself? And how do you connect with other people if you don't understand them? That requires a level of emotional availability. And there's this really great clip that I seen that I'm going to insert here.
We talk a lot about emotional unavailability, but let's talk about what it looks like to be an emotionally available person. When you're emotionally available, that means that you're available to give and to receive love in a relationship with another person. So you're not guarded to love. The first trait that these people possess is the ability to observe, to be observant of their own thoughts and emotions, emotional reactions, emotional patterns when we enter a relationship, and the ability to observe the partner, to observe their words, their actions, and how they match or do not match. Emotionally available people are not slaves to their emotional patterns. They have standards and they have a vision for how they desire their partnership to look like, for what they desire in that dynamic. So if you're an observant and you notice that, after a lot of intense back and forth talking, reciprocal energy, chemistry, we're doing great, energy shifts, the other person is short with you, they're not responding for a long time, they're not as affectionate anymore, you are not going to panic and be in fear and, oh my God, well, what did I do wrong? And go into this loop of unworthiness. You're going to sit back, you're going to see what's coming up in you, you're going to process that, you're going to acknowledge, oh my God, there's been an energy shift, and you're going to be able to communicate and ask the questions that you need to ask. And the question simply sounds like, hey, I kind of noticed that there's an energy shift, let me know if you want to talk about it. Someone who is ready to be in a deep, committed, intimate relationship with you is not going to brush you off. It's not going to say that you're too needy and what are you talking about, and this is just the way I am, and or whatever else, or ignore you. they will be able to, because they're in touch with their emotions, meaning they're emotionally available for their own emotions, they will be able to also communicate what is going on. And they will be able to say, hey, yeah, there's been an energy shift. Like, I feel the need to pull away. I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Let's talk about it in a day or two, whatever. This is a person that you can trust. At the end of the day, emotional availability in a relationship, in a partnership, also means your emotional availability to your own emotions. Are you able to receive your own emotion and process it, deal with it without putting the blame on the other person, without putting the responsibility of this emotion that is going on inside of you on another person? And if you can be receptive and available for your own emotions and move through them and come back into your neutral space and then communicate, then you are a safe space for someone else to do the same. In my opinion, healthy, deep, intimate relationships happen with two people who are self-aware of their own patterns and are willing to take radical responsibility for the emotions that happen inside their body. And then the next step, if we are, emotionally available, is to be able to continue taking loving actions in that relationship, regardless of the emotions that come up inside of you. So if you're someone who is typically anxiously attached, can you deal with the anxiety that shows up when your partner withdraws, but then still be able to come back and communicate, hey, when you withdraw, it makes me feel like this. Can we create a dynamic that's a little bit more healthy? Typically the avoidant feels suffocated, right, by your neediness. But in a healthy relationship where that person is becoming more available, they will want to meet that need of yours. This is where we dance in a beautiful relationship. And to finish today's talk off, if you are emotionally available and you are able to communicate your needs and you're able to process your emotion and still come back and communicate your needs, and that person is just not receptive to your needs, they're not receptive to your desires, they're not communicating what's going on inside of them, they're not truthful with you, and this is always felt, right? The more in touch you are with yourself, the more you can feel others as well. Then what happens is, as an emotionally available person, what happens is you become disinterested in this kind of a dynamic. You're like, well, this is kind of boring for me because I want depth and I want truth.
And there's this thread that I seen on Instagram where I don't have the app, so I can't read the whole thing, but I read a good portion of it where I feel like, okay, so the girl basically said, I've came across a lot of good men, but they are unknowingly emotionally unavailable. Emotional unavailability to me isn't about being cold or detached. Sometimes it's a man who shows up, says he wants something real, talks about the life that he's building, but his actions still move without intention. And usually I've learned, for me to get to this state of my life now where I am moving with so much intention as best as I possibly can, I have to have a level of emotional availability with myself to really understand what is it that I want and what is it that I don't want, what aligns with what makes me feel fulfilled and what makes me not feel fulfilled, and just so many different things. It's just so many different layers. And when you move with intention, moving with intention means to know what you want and know what direction you want to go in, because you are doing things with certainty as best as possible, right? Because everything that we may want may not go as planned. However, when you have a sense of direction that you want to go in, there are so many things where you'll be like, okay, I can come into alignment with this. And there will be things where it's I'm not going to waste my time coming into alignment with this because it does not align with what I want. And that requires a level of emotional availability. Even when it comes down down to the people that you come into agreement with. Like, you have to have a level of emotional availability, for one, while you're connecting with that person. Really like feel just how things are, like reading in between the lines of what's said and what's not said, and being able to say like, okay, this works for me and this doesn't work for me. And I think people have to understand, like, emotional unavailability is not just, oh, I don't want you, so I'm not going to open my emotions up for you. Like, emotional unavailability, like, yes, it can be that way in a sense of I could be emotionally available with myself, and because I'm emotionally available with myself, I know the type of people, the type of, just like anything, right? But we're going to talk about people. I know the type of people that I want to come into agreement with. But let's say, for example, if there's a person who wants me to be emotionally available with them, but for some reason I just don't feel that like connection to be emotionally available with them, I'm going to be emotionally unavailable because I just don't feel that desire to be emotionally available. And I think that's like one common way that a lot of people tend to see it, where it's like, oh, you know, you like a person but they're not showing you that interest back, so they're not emotionally available with you. And that could be intentionally or unintentionally, because like I said, a lot of people are emotionally unavailable, but they may not really fully understand that to its extent. Or it could be like, say for example, in my past, like just friendships and like relationship dynamics and things like that, I was never really emotionally available in those situations because I did not feel like it was safe for me. It did not feel comfortable for me. I felt like these are not people who I feel like are really in my corner, like, or people who really care about me the way that a person should care about you, the way that a person should treat you. Like, that's just not the energy exchange that I'm getting from them. So I don't feel safe enough to open up. I don't feel safe to be emotionally available with them. And I've learned that when I feel that way towards people, I cannot like continue a relationship with you or even build upon a relationship with you, because something just don't sit right in my spirit. And it could be for different reasons, right? Like, there could be actual things where I'm like, yeah, this is why. Or it could just be like, I don't feel like I can go into this level of emotional depth with you. And I've also learned that if I can't like open up to you emotionally, whether it's in a relationship or a friendship, I just don't see the purpose in the relationship as a close relationship. Like, for me to call you a friend or for me to call you my man, I have to feel like I can be emotionally available with you and that you create a safe environment for me. Because the second I don't feel like I can be open with you, for me, I feel like that automatically tells me like this is going to be a surface level relationship. We're never going to experience a level of depth that I would want in a relationship, because at the end of the day, like, when you are coming into alignment with people, there's a level of connection you want to have with them. Like I always say, like, I want you to feel me the way I feel you. You get what I'm saying? But it's like, if that emotional unavailability is there, it makes it difficult for that to happen. And like I said, that ultimately leads to like a surface level type of relationship. Or there will be this constant, like, if a person feels like you're emotionally unavailable with them, there's gonna feel, like I said, this sense of non-safety with them being emotionally available with you. So it's like this constant, like, this person wants to be emotionally available, you're not being emotionally available, so now this person feels like they can't be emotionally available, and then you may feel like, well, why aren't you giving me emotion? But this emotionally unavailable person may not realize that their emotional unavailability is creating an environment that does not feel safe for this person to be open with them. And that's how a lot of relationships are, honestly. It's like this constant push and pull dynamic, and it just creates toxicity. And to be honest, that's why I'm learning, like, when you are not in alignment with a person, it makes it so much more difficult to form a relationship with them, to where it's just like, you know, sometimes you just gotta let it go. Sometimes you just gotta call it what it is. And I feel like it's really important that people do that work on themselves. And it goes into, like I said, the video that I want to work on with attachment styles, because that plays a really big role in it as well. Because if you are like anxiously attached or you're an avoidant, if a person shows you emotions, like, you will feel this sense of like overwhelmingness, or you'll feel like they're being needy, or you'll feel like just like this is too much, like, and you'll run, which ultimately displays emotional unavailability. Because if you are emotionally emotionally available, then you will take the time out to really, for one, sit with yourself, right, and understand your emotions. But then you will also be able to communicate that with the other person to explain, like, hey, I may be feeling a little overwhelmed, or hey, I just need a little space. That way, like, you're not creating like this toxic dynamic or adding into the toxic dynamic by just running and being avoidant, versus saying like, okay, let me come back to you and actually like explain or express what it is that I'm feeling without just like not saying anything at all. So there's just like a whole lot of things, but I'm just going to enter some clips of just like people discussing how emotional unavailability shows up and how it can affect, like, you know, relationships and things like that, and then we can get back to the rest of the commentary.
You cannot be a supportive partner if you are emotionally absent or unavailable. In order for you to be able to support your partner, for one, you have to be able to have empathetic responses. You have to be able to show, identify, name, and process your emotions. Be able to communicate, be respectful, be patient, give them time, be engaged, be accessible, validate their emotions, even their experiences, be present, listen actively and empathetically. Be able to show that they are secure with you. And if you are emotionally absent, that's not happening. Many of the couples who I have been working with for years, even the couples who have ended in divorce or breaking up, usually it's because one of the partners was emotionally absent. And even with our own private services or services as a couple, we have not been able to successfully bring them to a place to where they are emotionally present for whatever their internal reasons are. Let me break one misconception first. A person who is emotionally absent or emotionally unavailable does not mean that they cannot feel their emotions. They can. However, they engage in psychological defenses and mechanisms. So they protect themselves by trying to avoid showing their emotions or allowing people to see them in a vulnerable state. The idea is to protect themselves from what they are afraid of, what they fear, or what they have experienced before. One of the reasons why you cannot support your partner if you are an emotionally absent person is because you tend to criticize their feelings and their opinions. You are constantly looking for inaccuracies, constantly assessing to see if their emotions are appropriate given the situation. And you say things like they're overreacting. Just get over it. It's not that big of a deal, which is very invalidating, and it dismisses their experience and how they feel. Instead of actually working through the issues that you have or that your partner raises, any concerns or things like that, you tend to withdraw and retreat, especially when it becomes overwhelming or the conversation becomes too deep. If the conversation requires, or if it's a conflict or a disagreement that requires for you to go deeper outside of your normal surface level, you're going to go into your shell, avoid, run away, or do something like that. Although you may be physically present, you are emotionally absent, which looks like your needs and your distractions over their concerns. And if you have a partner who had already felt like they were unworthy of love, affection, attention, care, anything like that, commitment from their past, from their childhood or anything like that, and they are still navigating those beliefs or breaking and trying to debunk those beliefs, then what you are doing is going to reinforce those unhealthy beliefs that they have, causing them to feel more unworthy in your situation. One really big thing that I see emotionally unavailable partners do is punish their partners. So usually emotionally unavailable or emotionally absent partners hold on to certain grudges from things that have happened in the past. Maybe their partner unintentionally hurt them or did something like that, disappointed them, or whatever the case may be. And they withhold affection in the present moment, or they think about withholding it in the future to punish their partner. It also keeps them away from having to go deeper into things. And a lot of times the punishment simply comes from you not processing your emotions, you not understanding what your emotions and what your feelings are trying to tell you. So instead of coping and addressing those, you punish your partner. You're unable to understand and empathize with your partner's perspective. Now, some people do struggle with empathy because of other reasons, biological factors, social conditioning, and stuff like that. So that may be the case. But if you're unable to empathize with your partner, they're going to feel unsupported. A really big one is putting conversations off or dismissing future conversations. So we can't talk now, but when your partner says, okay, if we can't talk now, can we talk about this in the future? It's not that big of a deal. It's unnecessary to talk about it. That's how your mind goes. And so you end up pushing off and dismissing future conversations as well, which keeps you in that same loop of unaddressed and unresolved problems and conflicts. Engagement is really important to be able to bond with your partner, especially in moments where they need your support. So if your go-to is to disengage, you're going to make them feel alone. And that absence sometimes is irreversible. It does irreversible damage. Accessibility, responsiveness, and engagement are extremely important for you to be able to bond with your partner. And it's extremely important to make sure that your partner feels supported. Why be on a journey if you feel like you're on a journey alone and you're in a relationship or a marriage? If you need more help with this, you can go ahead and join my class on September 18th at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is a Zoom group class. Are We Bonding? A-R-E, we bonding. So that way I can help you all, okay? I hope this gives you all something to work with. I wish you all the best. Happy, healthy relationships. Bye, babies.
These are phrases that emotionally unavailable people will always say. And I mean always. And you're going to recognize almost all of these because it's from the person, you know which one, that took your love and your attention and then left you high and dry. So let's just jump into this list. Number 1, I'm just a really bad texter, which means I only text you when I feel like it, and since you're not a priority, you're only going to hear from me when I'm bored. Number 2, you deserve better, which means you deserve better. Like, I'm not going to treat you better, but you deserve better, and I'm not going to let you go either. It's more just a warning that you're about to go through a show. Number 3, I like you, but I don't know if I'm ready for anything serious right now. Number 4, let's just see where this thing goes, aka nowhere. It's going nowhere, but here's some emotional labor. Number 5, my ex this, my ex that, my ex suck, you're better than my ex. Stop talking about your ex. It means you're not over your ex. And number 6, I don't know how to open up. I don't know how to be vulnerable. I don't know how to communicate my emotions or my feelings, which also means I'm not ready for a relationship. Yeah. So if you hear any of these, no need to decode. I already did it for you. Just know that they're not only emotionally unavailable, they're also probably emotionally unwilling.
So y'all, that was people's takes on emotional unavailability. So for the flip side, I want to do another video following after this one about emotional availability and what that looks like and how you can really achieve that and just like the benefits of it, right, for yourself, but also when you are building relationships with other people. And I should have that video out in about like 3-4 days. But anyways, y'all, I thank you so much for watching this video and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye.